Guys, this is Vishal Dandote, and in this video we will see what are the forms in Angular and what are the ways to handle the forms in Angular application. Before we start, let's see why forms are important in any application or any framework. So, the forms, whenever we are talking about the forms, so forms are helpful to collect some data from the UI, or whenever we can simply say whenever we need to collect some data from the user and from the UI, we can simply use the forms. So, uh, as we are talking about the Angular forms, so let's see what are the types of form in an Angular application and how we can use that with the help of example. So keep in mind, whenever we are talking about the forms in Angular, so there are two types of forms in Angular. First one is the reactive form and another one is called template driven form. So what is the reactive forms? So reactive means we can handle that form in the reactive way. It means we can simply write our form handling logic into the TypeScript file, or we can simply say we can create our model into the TypeScript file and get the instance of our form from the HTML page. So we can separate out our code like HTML code in the HTML file and the TypeScript or the form handling code into the um, TypeScript file. So basically, it is the cleaner and readable uh, way of using the reactive form. Whenever we are talking about the reactive form, so reactive form don't provide us two-way binding. So basically, whenever we are using the reactive forms, we are not using the two-way data binding with the help of ng module. And whenever we are talking about the template-driven form, so template-driven forms mostly handled by the directives. So which means we can simply create our directives, or we can simply use our directives which is provided by the Angular forms in the HTML file, and we can collect that form data from the um, on the basis of that directives or those directives. So in this approach, we are writing our whole code or all the codes which is required for getting the access of that particular form, and getting the access of that particular form's control. We need to use all the things into the HTML page because we are working with the directives. And uh, if there is a complex logic like as a form validation, and form validation contain a number of validation, so it is a little bit complex to handle the HTML template code. So that's why we are mostly using the reactive forms, and it is the very cleaner approach. So let's see with the example how we can use the template driven form and reactive forms. So before we start the example, keep in mind whenever we are talking about the forms, so we need to import one package or one module in the Angular application for the forms is nothing but the forms module, and that we need to import, or that we need to register into the imports array in app.module.ts file. So before we start working on the form, let's import our module, or let's register our module in the app.module.ts file. So here I can simply say import and from @angular and slash forms. So and as you can see, Angular forms has provided the forms module, which is useful for handling the template driven form, and the reactive form has its own module called a reactive forms module. So here we can simply say forms module will handle our template driven form, and here we can simply say reactive forms module. And as you can see here, we have imported two modules. First one for template driven form, another one is for reactive form. So whenever we have the module, that we need to register into the inputs array. So let's do that. Forms module, here we can simply say reactive forms module. So, and here we are ready to use our forms in the Angular application. So here we are saying Angular that I'm going to use my forms, or I'm going to use forms in this application, and the whatever functionality you have into the Angular forms module or the package, please provide that functionality to this application. So as we have registered these forms, let's create one HTML form to see the example of template given form. So for that, I can simply create my form tag, and into the form tag, I will simply say div, and it has, let's say div, it has the child element called label plus input. So here you can see I have created my label tag as well as the input tag, and in this I will copy this div, and again I will add into the next line, and for this label I will simply say username because I am going to create my login form, and here I will simply say password. So as you can see, now we have username and the password. We have two forms, two fields. So every fields in Angular application, in the form in the Angular application, that is nothing but one control of that particular form. And whatever fields we have used into the forms, and this form tag is nothing but the group of the form controls. So basically, form control in number of form contain in number of form controls. That's why we are grouping, or we are wrapping those with the help of form tag. So that's why we can simply say this is nothing but the form group, and it had child, that is nothing but the form controls. So as you can see, we have created our simple form, and we need to add one button, and here we can simply say submit, and as you can see, we have a username, password, and submit button. So what we need to do now, we need to get access of these two controls to collect the data from the user. So whenever we need to get access of these two fields, what we need to do, we need to use the directive called ngModel in the template driven form, and we will simply use that for password as well, and we can simply give the name of that particular form. So I will simply say password, and here I will simply say name, which is nothing but username. Okay, and here now what we have done here, so basically this ngModel, which is nothing but the directive which will get access of our input element, or we can simply say access of our form control. So this is nothing but one input field, and any input field which is under the form tag, that is nothing but one form control into the Angular forms. So as you can see, we have two input fields, username and password, and what I need to do now? I have to get or I have to collect data from these both fields. So for that, here we have got the access of the form controls, but that access will available into the um, our ng form. So for that we can simply define our reference variable. So here I can simply say login, and I will simply use ng form. So this ng form will tell Angular that I am please provide the access of this form into the login variable. So basically this is the reference variable in Angular. Whenever you will see hashtag and the variable name, that is nothing but the reference variable in Angular. So whenever we need to get data from this form, we need to define one method for submit that form, and whenever user will click on the submit button, we will able to access or get that data in our submit method. So for that I can simply I will simply create my submit method, and here I will simply say submit, and here I have write my submit method. So I need to create or define that method here, and here we can simply say console.log. And as I told you, now our form access is available in the login variable, right? So we need to pass that login variable to our submit method as an argument. And in the in the definition or the method definition, we can simply say data or the form data, whatever variable you want to use. And here we can simply say form data, and you can see we have created submit method, and whenever user will click on our submit button, we will able to get the form access. And as you can see here, when we are clicking on the submit button, as you can see, this is the total representation of the ng form, and it has a number of properties and the methods, as you can see here. And you can see form has a class called form group, and it has also the controls, as I told you. So we have two controls now, username and password, and it has the different type of classes, as you can see, pristine, touch, and the dirty, and so on. So like this, we got the form instance, but whenever we need to collect data or we need to get data directly in the Angular form or the model driven form, we can simply apply value to it. So basically what we are saying Angular, that we are saying Angular that give me the object whichever you have collected from the forms. So as you can see, I will simply add my username called Vishal, and password would be 1234. And whenever I will click on the submit button, as you can see, I have successfully collected my forms data. In this way, you can handle the template driven form, or you can use the template driven form in Angular. So in the next lecture, we will see how we can apply or use the validation for the template driven form. So let's see you guys in the next video. If you like my video, please subscribe the channel and add the comments so I can answer you in the next lecture. Thank you so much. Bye.